Good, day two. My name is Connor. It's great to have you here. I am a life coach, but I also have been trained in IFS therapy back in 2014, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of IFS-based coaching sessions. Currently, I interweave IFS into my coaching practice, and I use IFS every single day. I've also done a ton of IFS work on myself, and that's actually how I became most interested and excited in it. That's the reason I got trained, and that's the reason I decided to really dedicate a big part of my life to the IFS protocols and IFS practices that I go into in much more detail over at internalfamilysystems.org. So check that site out. You can also subscribe to this channel for great content. You can like the video and you can share it with other people if you think that they could benefit from it. So today we're going to talk about how do I start an IFS practice, or how do I start IFS therapy? How can you get started with internal family systems? Obviously, you can call an IFS therapist, but the reality is there are not that many IFS therapists available, unfortunately. A lot of therapists at this point in time, because IFS has been around long enough and it's gotten a lot of attention, they're IFS informed, so that is helpful. They can kind of do some amount of IFS work. But even a therapist who's been trained in IFS therapy, they may or may not be beneficial to you. I think finding a therapist is there's so many components that matter when looking for a therapist or looking for a coach, really looking for anyone who's going to help you in self-growth, self-healing work. There's a lot of energetics that matter. There's a lot of interpersonal dynamics that matter. And even someone who maybe is an exceptional therapist for one person may not be an exceptional therapist for you. That being said, you can be an exceptional therapist for you. You can always be the leader of your self-growth and your self-empowerment, your self-healing journey. And that is a big part of my mission, is to help other people empower themselves to create tools of all sorts, but in this case, IFS-related tools that you can have for the rest of your life and do this self-growth, self-healing, self-empowerment journey entirely on your own. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video right now. One of the first steps for you might be, as I said, reaching out to an IFS practitioner in your area or someone that you can connect with online. I think that's fantastic. Another step is going to be watching content, reading content, doing something of that manner to more deeply understand IFS and IFS protocols. That is certainly helpful as well. But in this video, I'm going to offer 2 techniques that you can use today to begin your IFS practice, to begin your own self-therapy journey. These 2 approaches are different, and I'm going to kind of talk about that just for a moment. One of them is more sensationally based. The other is more mental space based. Both are really important. I would say that they play off of each other, they feed each other. You kind of need to have both places accessible and be practicing in both arenas to have a really efficient and whole experience with the IFS process. But we tend to use our mental space a lot more than our sensational space. So if you were going to choose one, I would say do the sensational based practice over the mental based practice. But again, both are beneficial and both have value and both play off of each other. So to that end, let's start with the mental one. The mental one would be getting out a journal, a notebook, maybe your computer, however you want to take notes, and just write at the top of the page, my parts. And you can just begin a very gentle list of the different parts of your system that you can think of And if you don't really know how to begin that process, here are some very easy examples. Maybe you are a very productive person and you just love being productive and you like getting things done, and it's very important to you that you get things done, and this is just part of your everyday character. This would be most likely identified as a part, and you could write down productive part. And then you can also do just a very brief character assessment. What is this part all about? And you can get very specific about different questions to ask and to answer regarding these parts. But for simplicity's sake, just to begin, writing down, here's a part, and here's kind of what I know about the part. It can be just like 1 or 2 sentences. And then move on to another part that you may identify. Perhaps from time to time, you feel anxiety. I know for myself, I have an anxious part that I've done a lot of work with, to the point now where my anxiety, this anxious part, has really shifted its energy and its behavior and the way it communicates with me into something that's not unpleasant at all. We have a very good relationship. But initially, anxiety showed up for me as the sensation in my neck that felt very uncomfortable. And I'd just kind of be like, ugh. And so identifying, oh, I have an anxious part. It shows up in my neck. It feels uncomfortable. That's a part, and that's all you have to write. Perhaps you have a sad part, and from time to time, or maybe very frequently, you just get into these places where you feel quite sad, or maybe you would even call it depressed. Well, you can write depressed part or sad part. And when this part is active, I want to lay in bed. I want to pull the covers up over me. I feel like I could cry. Okay, so those are 3 parts already. Now, you may not identify with any of those parts, but hopefully you get some understanding of what we are talking about when we're making this list. And I would recommend that you don't spend all day or the rest of your life trying to identify every single part that you could possibly identify. That can just get you kind of lost in the weeds. What you want to do is spend enough time that you can bring self-awareness into your system, but not so much time that you actually get lost in the process of attempting to have more self-awareness. And that is a common thing that can happen for people when they start to connect with IFS and apply some of the protocols. IFS is absolutely fantastic, but particularly when you're using your mental space to identify parts, you want to kind of have a limit on it so that you don't just kind of get into another part that's looking for parts. So I would say put a time limit on it. I think 20 minutes is absolutely sufficient for the beginning. And you may identify 3 parts. You may identify 20 parts. It's okay. However many parts make sense for you to identify in about 20 minutes is great. And being open to this is the first time you've created a list like this, it may shift and it may change as you develop a greater understanding of these parts. So that is the mental exercise. And you can do that right after you finish watching this video. It's very, very helpful. The other exercise that I would very, very much recommend is, again, sensationally based. And this is something that, to a degree, the IFS Institute, where I was trained, sort of teaches. And I have also sort of made it my own. So there's some specific things here that I recommend, that I do for myself, and I recommend to clients. So I know that it works very, very well. But you can kind of tweak it and do it in your own way. After you've practiced it enough times, you'll identify what works well for you. What I would recommend is that you go to bed and you lay down in bed and you close your eyes, or you even put on an eye mask, and you place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and you just breathe. And as you do this process, all you're doing is looking to develop more self-energy. And self-energy is comprised of the 3 C's that I encourage people to remember. There are 6, but I encourage people to remember these 3. Curious, compassionate, calm. So you're just looking to develop a little space where curiosity, a sense of calm, and a sense of compassion exist. And the reason I like the heart and the belly is because 99 times out of 100, a client, certainly myself, is going to find that energy in their body somewhere in this region. So it's helpful to have physical connection with ourselves as we create this connection with self. Calm, curious, compassionate. So we look for that energy. We're also paying attention to any other sensations that we may have. Now, sensations, when I speak about sensations, I am speaking very specifically about the physical body and how it feels. So those are sensations. But you can also find parts that are thinking, and obviously you can find parts that are feeling. And feeling is a little bit different than a body sensation, but most of the time, body sensation and feeling do have a pretty strong connection. And arguably, thought has a strong connection with body sensation and emotion as well. But in our culture, we've really separated those 2 things to such a degree that it can take some time to reestablish that natural connection and understanding that this is like a trifecta of our system, and they all correlate together. So what are you thinking? Just notice what you're thinking. Notice any thoughts. Notice any body sensations, whether they feel good or whether they feel uncomfortable. And notice any feelings that you may be having. So you're noticing those things, and you're not attempting to over-focus on them. You're attempting to bring self-awareness to them, while also focusing on establishing this place of self-energy, calm, curious, and compassionate. And even if you only connect with that particular space, like 1%, that's enough. So just a teeny little bit is fine, especially in the beginning. So you're going to connect with that space, you're paying attention to the other things that exist, you're going to connect with that space as best you can, and then from that space, you're just going to have self-awareness for these other sensations, thoughts, and feelings that are present. And initially, if that's all you do, fantastic. And the most important piece here is that you don't have an agenda and that you don't judge how it's going. Now, a part of you may want to have an agenda, and another part of you may be self-critical, and that's quite all right. Have self-awareness for those parts. You don't have to push them away or force them to change. But it is good to keep in mind for your self-energy that nothing has to happen. You just closing your eyes, laying down, and spending time connecting with yourself in this way is an absolutely beautiful therapeutic practice that I guarantee you will have positive results, regardless of what ultimately happens in that particular session. So there's a lot more you can do here, but if we're talking about how do I start an IFS practice, that is one of the most beautiful and I would say important places to begin to form a relationship with, is simply that space of being with you, being really gentle, being really patient, and being really self-aware. So those are 2 different approaches to beginning your IFS practice for yourself. Over at our website, internalfamilysystems.org, that's really what we do on that website. And it's a lot of what we do here on this channel, is to empower individuals to become their own therapist, to become their own coach, to become their own leader. Because I believe that that is the absolute best way to have sustainable, long-lasting healing and growth-promoting change in your life. So check out internalfamilysystems.org. We have an incredible program over there that empowers individuals to do exactly what I'm talking about here, but in a much more deep, integrated, and whole way. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, you can click the like button, you can leave us a comment. Definitely share this video with someone you know who could use it. And I wish you an absolutely beautiful day, and we'll see you soon.